We are Team Control-Alt-Elite. In 1991, Robert Chung, who was a part of the Social Science Research Center at Hong Kong University, established a public opinion program, better known as POP for short, with the intended purpose to gather research on the public's opinion on several topics that stretched across a spectrum. POP relied predominantly on telephones, street intercepts, and online surveys as the primary methods to conduct its research. It was during this time Robert was working with a gentleman by the name Jazz Ma, an information technology manager for POP. Jazz had a strong technical background, obtaining his first degree in electrical engineering and computer science from the Chinese University of Hong Kong, and then a master's degree in electrical commerce and internet computing.
Robert Chung wanted to make voting and the election process more smoothly. It was with this image in mind that he created a platform where, regardless of your physical location, you could cast a vote electronically, and later became known as Pop Vote. Pop Vote was implemented by Jazz with the help of 2 full-time and 1 part-time developers. Less than 3 months before the first live event on March 23, 2012, almost immediately upon its launch, Pop became a victim of several massive distributed denial of service attacks. In order to inform the general public of the new platform's existence, Pop decided to hold a press conference on February 8th and announced there would be 2-phase mock votes held to allow general public to see and experience how Pop would operate. The target age were voters for 18 and older. During the first phase of the mock vote, which took place several days, March 16th through the 20th, the prime focus was to test the system's ability and responsibility by allowing those who were interested in testing and entering the system to vote once per hour. This was a smart idea to let the general public see and experience this new system firsthand. The test was successful with no issue.
On the following day, March 21st, the second phase of testing began, which primarily focused on ensuring the various functionalities of the system worked as required. The Hong Kong University IT staff found that POP was under suspicion of a distributed denial of service attack at a speed of 1 million requests per second. What made POP Vote vulnerable was its poorly optimized design and the lack of properly trained IT staff. POP was not a technology company, but a research gathering company. One of the most significant downfalls was the SMS verification, which POP Vote utilized to enhance the process, as it ended up causing more harm than good. In accordance with the Chinese law, Article 17, POP Vote responded by notifying network service providers who were able to implement measures to successfully block the abnormal data transfer. The next day, March 22nd, POP Vote was under another denial of service attack. Unfortunately, this time, the intruders were able to evade all security measures put into place, such as changing account passwords and gaining access to not 1, but 2 POP IT member staff accounts. There was unfortunately no internal program running that monitored the system activities, which meant POP Vote was completely in the dark about what exactly took place while the intruders had unauthorized access. Unlike March 21st, POP failed to notify the police in an inadequate time frame, which was against the Chinese law, Article 27, that required the responsible party to notify law enforcement as soon as it was known that their system had or might have been affected by a data breach.
Once the voting had officially begun at midnight of the 23rd of March, is when things started to go awry. At 3 in the morning, a distributed denial of service attack took place and paralyzed the system for 15 minutes. Roughly 4 hours later, around 7 o'clock in the morning, the website became sluggish and eventually became to a complete halt. Voters were unable to log onto the website or carry out SMS verification. POP was not oblivious to the impending danger and made several attempts to repair the system to prevent the event coming off the hinges completely. POP tried to reduce the system workload by optimizing and removing irrelevant web data, tightening the firewall connection limit, and preparing for immediate relocation by renting 4 more cloud servers from Hong Kong University. Roughly around 5 o'clock, IT experts arrived on scene and were successfully able to stabilize the system 4 hours later. Unfortunately, as a result of most of the system resources being offline, a good majority of the voters were unable to cast their votes. POP decided to hold a press conference to inform the media of the ongoing situation and announced that they were switching to paper ballots until the e-voting system was restored. There are several violations of the Chinese laws that are applicable here. Article 15, when data breaches happen, the company responsible must notify the persons involved. Article 25, The responsible party must conduct a formulated plan to ensure the safety of the data furthermore. And Article 33, an investigation must thoroughly be conducted and all employees who had direct access should be suspended until the conclusion of said investigation. Some reflections on the March 23rd event. IT experts were able to find 4 suspicious IP addresses. POP reported the incident to the police. 2 men were later arrested, 1 convicted of criminal damages, and the other was given 160 hours of community service. The SMS verification process hindered the performance of the event, leading to heavy mobile and network traffic, causing a self-inflicted distributed denial of service attack, and POP should not have revealed their server address. On the 23rd of March, Robert Chung announced that they were going to assemble a IT advisory group comprised of volunteers with the intended goal to redesign and enhance the voting system. In order to protect POP vote and make it more resilient in any further attacks aimed at paralyzing the system or stealing information, Jazz, the IT advisory group, and his team strengthened the cooperation between POP and the IT sector. Some of these changes were made that were changing the system to Python for more scalability purposes, implemented more secure hashing, broke the system into subsystems, allowing them to work independently of one another, and added an additional 40 servers, significantly improving the fault tolerance. Jazz and his team moved PopVote to a cloud server, utilizing Amazon Web Services to speed up the handling and copying of the sudden increase in network traffic. Additionally, integrated firewalls to block distributed denial attacks. POP integrated the system with a security service provider, bringing in uDomain, which provided cloud-based protection services, whereas hosting services and Amazon were handled by Cloudflare, and Amazon provided an additional hosting route via its elastic computing.
January 1st, the New Year's vote was organized by PopVote and the Central for Social Policy Study of the Hong Kong Polytech University to encourage the general public to express their views on the current electoral system and introduce PopVote. Learning from previous experiences, PopVote thought ahead and placed additional servers on site for voting day, allowing the polling stations to work independently if for whatever reason they were disconnected from the internet. The negatives of the New Year's vote, people still complained about the SMS messaging system, making everything too slow. The system had a queuing mechanism, which took longer than 3 minutes. On June 13th, the mock vote started at noon and went well for the first 30 hours and received over 20,000 successful registrations without any network or SMS problem. On June 14th, the DDoS attack on the DNS service provider, Cloudflare. Cloudflare added a rate limit to popvote.hk to limit the amount of traffic and to control network congestion. AWS Route 53 was added as another DNS service provider. On June 15th, the DDoS of AWS recovered over 10 billion system requests in 20 hours. The DDoS on Cloudflare reached the scale of 75 gigabytes per second, and uDomain reached 10 gigabytes per second, which had consumed most of uDomain's internet bandwidth. On June 16th, DNS of AWS has already recorded over 100 billion system requests. AWS and uDomain took an unusual step and decided to suspend services provided to PopVote. AWS stopped providing DNS services while uDomain ended its web application firewall services and only redirected traffic. Cloudflare became the only organization to continue service.
On June 17, Cloudflare turned on its protection services. The PopVote site was under enormous distributed denial of service attacks, and at its peak, the site saw incoming traffic at a rate of 150 gigabytes per second. That night, Pop reported the attack to the police. June 18 was the end of the mock vote. With 37,202 votes and registrations received, PopVote announced that it would print out 100,000 paper ballots for a contingency plan. On June 19, Project Galileo enrolled PopVote and provided 4 dedicated domain name servers. Except for the cloud servers hosted by Amazon, Cloudflare became the sole security provider to PopVote. On June 20th, distributed denial of service attacks began at 0900 hours before the voting started at 1200 hours. By 1800 hours, the voting platform had successfully received 232,270 votes. And during the attack, Cloudflare stated that the attacks continued at a rate of no less than 300 gigabytes per second. The kitchen sink attack was a layer 3 domain name system reflection and network time protocol reflection attack that were reported at 100 gigabytes per second. Layer 4, 100 million SYN packets are recorded per second, and Layer 7 domain name system flood, over 250 million valid domain name system requests, and 128 million gigabytes per second of domain name system requests were received without amplification. To mitigate the damage, Cloudflare hard-coded domain name system response with Google Public Domain Name System, Open Domain Name System, and Hong Kong Intrusion Prevention System. It updated the Android application to minimize the dependency of cloud hosting. Google whitelisted PopVote's subdomain at Google Public Domain Name System, and this helped reduce 500,000 to 20,000 requests per second.
Based on our analysis of the events that took place, we'd like to propose the following enhancements that could improve PopVote in the future. First and foremost, hiring more professional IT staff that meet the job requirements by effectively establishing risk compliance guidelines for hiring, such as work experience in the field and the proper certifications. Next, implementing the proper intrusion detection systems is an important security step. In case a malicious attack is successful in obtaining unauthorized access, there will be a recording of all files accessed. Third, hiring personnel that are educated and knowledgeable in the field of law is needed, so that in case of future attacks, personnel would have been aware of what legal action to take. Next, regarding the SMS verification, they should shorten the queuing time since it was causing delays in voting. POP should also utilize additional security measures like multi-factor authentication or voice recognition to protect the user's information. Our fifth recommendation is to establish an IT panel that supervises Robert Chun and Jazz Ma and has the final say in things. They need someone professional and educated to overlook them. Finally, they could reach out to a third-party network to run a basic usage test on their system to check its performance before voting events to ensure they meet the requirements of the Chinese e-commerce laws. Collectively, we believe these recommendations could prepare POP's success in the future. Thank you.